Man, we have got to talk about what just happened in Indianapolis. The Colts just finished up an offseason that has everybody buzzing. Seriously, they've basically pushed all their chips to the middle of the table on a massive, franchise-altering bet that could either make them Super Bowl contenders or, set them back for years. So today, we are going to break down every single dollar, every risk, and every single consequence of the Colts' unbelievable gamble. What's up, everybody, and welcome to NFL Nexus. This is the place where we go way beyond the basic headlines to give you the kind of analysis you're just not going to find anywhere else. So if you love this kind of deep dive and you want to stay ahead of the curve, do me a huge favor. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, like this explainer, and definitely drop a comment below with your thoughts. I read every single one, and I really want to know what you think is going on with the Colts right now. All right, let's just get right into it. Did the Colts just make the single riskiest bet in the entire league this year? I mean, think about it. Their general manager, Chris Ballard, he's always been known as this super calculated, build-through-the-draft kind of guy. But this year, whoa, this year was completely different. He went all in, committing a frankly insane amount of money to just 2 players. How insane? Well, let's actually look at the numbers. Okay, first up, look at this number, $88 million. That's the commitment they made to their quarterback, a player who, let's be honest, a lot of people had completely written off just 1 season ago. It's a huge figure, but believe it or not, it's actually the smaller of the 2 deals we're going to talk about. And there it is, the second number, $114 million. That is a top-of-the-market, break-the-bank kind of contract for a wide receiver. So you add it all up, and we are talking about over $200 million handed out to 2 guys, both of whom have some pretty significant question marks. This is the absolute definition of a high-stakes gamble. So who are these players at the center of this massive bet? Let's kick things off with the quarterback, Daniel Jones. Now, you gotta admit, his story from the 2025 season it's pretty incredible. After 6 seasons with the New York Giants, where, let's be real, he often looked like a fish out of water, he lands in Indy, and suddenly, everything clicks. But the choice to give him that $88 million deal, yeah, that is far from a simple decision. And this right here, this just shows you how much of an impact he had. The Colts were a completely different team with him under center. It's not an exaggeration. When he took over for Anthony Richardson Sr., the offense found a rhythm it hadn't had since, Phillip Rivers was in town back in 2020? With Jones, they were a legit playoff team, rolling to an 8-2 record. Without him, they couldn't buy a win. The difference could not be more clear. So from that angle, you can kind of see why the front office felt like they had to lock him down. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. It's like 2 completely different realities. On one hand, you've got that amazing 2025 season, an 8-2 record, he finally looked comfortable in Shane Steichen's system, and he gave them the best quarterback play they'd seen in years. But then you look at the other side, and you see the enormous risks. A devastating torn Achilles injury that just ended his season. And don't forget, he was playing through a fractured fibula before that happened. Plus, you've got 7 years of NFL service and not 1 full season played. So the Colts are betting nearly $50 million in guaranteed money that 10-game stretch from 2025 is the real Daniel Jones, not the guy we saw for 6 years before that, and that he can fully recover from one of the hardest injuries for any athlete to come back from. Whew. And this is exactly where the criticism comes in. Gary Davenport from Bleacher Report just nails it here. The Colts had another move they could have made. They could have used the transition tag. It's basically a tool that lets you lock a player in for 1 year on a prove-it deal. It would have kept Jones in Indianapolis for the 2026 season, giving them a full year to see, hey, can this guy stay healthy? And was that 10-game stretch for real? It was the safer play, the much more careful option. Instead, they just skipped right past that and jumped straight to the massive long-term deal. It's a move that screams they're 100% certain he's their guy, but man, it completely closes the door on any wait-and-see approach. Okay, let's shift gears to the second part of this massive wager, because this is where it gets even crazier. Wide receiver Alec Pierce. If the Daniel Jones contract made you raise an eyebrow, the Pierce deal made jaws hit the floor all around the league. He's a talented player, don't get me wrong, but the question is he talented enough to be paid like one of the absolute top guys at his position? Now, to be fair to the Colts, you have to look at what he did in 2025. It was a genuine breakout year. For the 2nd year in a row, he led the entire NFL in yards per catch. That basically cements him as one of the best deep threats in the whole league. He set career highs in everything, with 47 catches and over 1,000 yards. And maybe the most impressive part, he did it while catching passes from 3 different quarterbacks. That proves he can get it done no matter who's throwing him the ball. There were games where he, not Michael Pittman Jr., looked like the real #1 guy. But here's the problem. Just look at this slide. His paycheck makes him one of the 10 highest paid receivers in the entire NFL. But his production, at least when you look at the sheer volume, it just doesn't match up. Last season, he ranked 76th in the league in receptions. 76th. He was 20th in receiving yards, which is really good, but it's not top 10, and 27th in touchdowns. So here's the deal. The Colts aren't paying him for the player he has been. They are paying him for the player they think he's going to become. And that, my friends, is a massive, massive risk. And this quote right here, it gets to the absolute heart of the challenge facing Alec Pierce. Look, it's one thing to be an amazing deep threat when you have a true #1 receiver like Michael Pittman Jr. on the other side of the field, drawing the other team's best corner. It is a completely different world to suddenly be the guy. With Pittman gone, traded away to make room for these contracts, Pierce isn't the complimentary piece anymore. He's the main attraction. He's going to get the double teams. He's going to have to run more than just go routes. The pressure on him to evolve is just immense. Hey, just gonna hit pause for a second here. If you're enjoying this breakdown, one of the best ways you can support NFL Nexus is by checking out our custom NFL coloring books. Seriously, they're perfect for kids, grandkids, or even for you if you just want to chill out. We put a ton of work into them. You can find the link right in the description below or just scan the QR code on your screen. All right, let's get back to it. So we've laid out the bet. Over $200 million on two players who have high ceilings but also some major risks. So now we have to talk about the consequence, because spending this much money doesn't just happen in a bubble. It creates a ripple effect that totally changes the rest of your team building plan. And for the Colts, it has created a massive, massive problem heading into the NFL draft. Let's just walk through this chain reaction. Step 1, the massive spending. Step 2, to even afford that, you have to trade away a Pro Bowl receiver in Michael Pittman Jr., which, by the way, creates another hole on your team. Step 3, because of other trades, you don't have a first-round pick in the 2026 draft. And all of that leads us right here to step 4. All the pressure in the entire world is now on your first pick, number 47 overall, in the second round. With only 2 picks in the top 100, they absolutely positively cannot afford to miss. They need to find a day 1 starter, a savior, late on day 2. So, who could that savior be? Let's spend some real time on this, because this is where the Colts' whole gamble is either going to pay off or blow up in their face. They have to hit on these draft picks, and it all starts with a defense that has some major holes. First up, they desperately need a guy who can get after the quarterback. That brings us to Malachi Lawrence, a powerful edge rusher from UCF. I mean, think about it. You're in a division with Trevor Lawrence and CJ Stroud. If you can't generate pressure, you just can't win, period. So looking at Lawrence's scouting report, he's not just a one-trick pony. That description, long, physical edge setter, that's the key. In Gus Bradley's defense, you need guys who can handle the run on first and second down, not just guys who can rush the passer. Lawrence can do that. At UCF, you showed over and over again he had the power to hold his ground. But what makes him a potential steal on day 2 is that he mixes that power with real athleticism. His bend lets him get low and turn that corner on a tackle, and that closing speed, that's what separates good college players from guys who actually get sacks in the NFL. He's exactly the kind of high-floor, high-ceiling prospect they've got to find. And this quote from ESPN's Jordan Reed, it just perfectly explains the strategy here. When you don't have a first-round pick, you can't afford to draft a specialist. You're not looking for a guy who only plays on third down. You need someone who can be on the field for most of the game. A player like Lawrence who can stop the run on first down and then get you a sack on third down, that's incredibly valuable. He solves multiple problems with one pick, which is exactly the kind of home run a team in the Colts position needs to hit. But look, a great pass rush isn't just about the edge. The fastest way to the quarterback is a straight line, right up the gut. And with an aging superstar at defensive tackle, the Colts have to be thinking about now and the future of their interior line. And that's why another name you hear constantly connected to them at pick 47 is Caleb Banks from Florida. Drafting Banks would be such a classic Chris Ballard move. Get ahead of a need before it becomes a full-blown crisis. You can see on the slide why he's so intriguing. He's got the perfect size and long arms you want in a guy who can wreck things from the inside. But the key word here is future-proofing. Their all-pro DeForest Buckner is 32 now, and he's coming off a pretty significant neck injury. He's also got a huge salary. Banks isn't just a guy who rotates in for 2026. He's the potential replacement. You draft him now, you let him learn from one of the best in the business for a year, and then hopefully he's ready to be your starter in 2027. It's a really smart, long-term strategic play. Okay, let's move to the second level of the defense. If the D-line brings the muscle, the linebackers are the brains of the operation. And after trading away their team captain, Zaire Franklin, the Colts don't just have a hole in the middle of their defense, they have a leadership hole. This makes linebacker a huge priority, and a player like Anthony Hill Jr. out of Texas could be the perfect fit. Hill is exactly what a modern NFL linebacker looks like. The days of the big, slow run stuffers are over. In today's league, you need guys with legit speed and range who can cover tight ends down the field and chase running backs to the sideline. That is Anthony Hill's entire game. His tape at Texas is just one sideline-to-sideline play after another. He's not a guy you take off the field on third down. He's a three-down player who could be the leader of that defense for the next 10 years. He also brings that physical, tone-setting attitude that they lost when they traded Franklin. He's a true run-and-hit defender who could immediately become the new heart and soul of that unit. All right, let's move to the back end of the defense. The Colts have spent picks on corners recently, but they still don't have that true game changer at the safety position. They need a guy who can roam the deep part of the field, an eraser who cleans up mistakes and, most importantly, creates turnovers. And that's where a prospect like A.J. Halsey from LSU comes into the picture. You know, when you hear scouts call a player instinctive, it's one of the best compliments they can give a DB. It means they just see the game a split second faster than everyone else. That's Halsey. He has this natural feel for reading a quarterback's eyes and just going and getting the football, which is why they call him a big play defender. The Colts defense last year was fine, but it wasn't dynamic. They need more takeaways. Halsey is the kind of player who can give them that spark. And he's not just a coverage guy either. That heavy hitter label is for real. He'll come flying down into the box to stop the run, which makes him a super versatile weapon for Gus Bradley to move all over the field. All right, our last potential savior is a guy who's right in their backyard. While other positions get more of the glory, the slot cornerback spot has become one of the most critical positions on any modern defense. And with some uncertainty around a key veteran, D'Angelo Pons from Indiana could be a really smart, targeted pick for them. And this quote from Mark Ross at NFL Network just connects all the dots perfectly. The perfect fit isn't just about talent, it's about timing and need. Their veteran slot corner, Kenny Moore II, is one of the best in the game, but he's getting older and he's expensive. Whether it's this year or next, the Colts need a plan for who's next. Pons is seen as a great fit for that tough nickel role, which requires crazy quickness and instincts. Drafting a local kid who can learn from one of the best for a year and then take over, that would be an incredibly smart move, handling a future problem before it becomes a current one. It's the kind of forward thinking they absolutely have to do. So after all of that, the giant contracts, the traded players, the long list of draft needs, where does this actually leave the Indianapolis Colts? They've made their decision. They've spent a fortune to build their offense around a quarterback with a serious injury history and a receiver who still has to prove he can be a real number one. And now they have to live with the consequences of that choice. And this slide just perfectly sums up the high-wire act they're on. You have an offense built on two huge, risky deals. You have a defense with big holes at basically every level. You don't have a first-round pick to find an easy fix. What this means is that the success of their entire 2026 season and maybe the next few years of the franchise could literally depend on them hitting a home run with a couple of picks on day 2 of the draft. It is an unbelievably risky position to be in. So at the end of the day, the question is pretty simple. Is this the brilliant masterstroke of a bold GM who knows exactly when to push his chips in? Or is it a desperate, reckless gamble that's going to cripple their salary cap and set this franchise back for the next 5 years? I really want to know what you think. Let me know your final verdict down in the comments below. Thanks for watching.